A young woman accidentally discovers that her boyfriend is her half-brother, whose existence she was unaware of. I first saw her under a flickering streetlight, wearing a blue raincoat even though it wasn't raining. She was standing on the corner of 14th and Jefferson, digging through her tote bag with that kind of frantic energy that told you she'd either lost her phone or her whole damn life. I was driving a delivery van back then, overnight runs for a courier company that didn't ask questions. I slowed down out of instinct more than curiosity. Some part of me still held on to the belief that it was a good thing to help people. Blame my old man, a barstool philosopher who always said, "The day you stop caring about strangers is the day you lose your soul." She looked up when she heard the tires, and I swear, her face lit up like headlights on a deer. Not scared, more like relieved. "You okay?" I called out through the open window. She nodded, but then took a hesitant step toward the van. "My phone died. I missed my bus. Do you know if there's another one coming?" There wasn't. Not for hours. That stretch of road was dead after 11. I hesitated, then unlocked the passenger door. "I can drop you somewhere nearby. I got a couple deliveries to make, but I'm headed downtown." She paused, then climbed in. Her name was Tessa, 25. Studied graphic design. Laughed with her whole face and cried at stupid commercials. I know all this now. But that night, she was just a stranger in a blue raincoat who smelled like cinnamon gum and seemed way too calm for someone stranded after midnight. We made small talk, mostly about music and late-night snacks, until I dropped her at her apartment. She turned back as she got out and said, "Thank you, seriously. You saved me tonight." And maybe that should have been the end. A good deed. A warm memory. But 2 weeks later, I saw her again, this time inside a diner on 9th, sketching in a notepad and drinking black coffee like it was her religion. We started seeing each other after that. Quiet walks. Loud laughter. Slow mornings wrapped in blankets and jazz. I told her things I hadn't told anyone, about my brother dying young, about the foster homes, about the one night I almost didn't make it. She listened. She never judged. I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me, not the scrapes or the scars, just me. But then came the letter. One pale envelope, tucked under my apartment door. No return address. Just my name in shaky handwriting that looked like it had been written by a ghost. Inside, just 8 words. "Tessa is your sister. You share blood." I didn't sleep that night. I must have read that letter 20 times before sunrise. The handwriting was unfamiliar. No signature. Just those 8 words, burned into my brain like a cigarette hole in denim. "Tessa is your sister. You share blood." I sat there in the dark, listening to the hum of the fridge, the creak of old pipes, the silent screaming in between. We'd been dating for almost 4 months at that point. And not just casually. I'd met her friends. She'd met the old man I call my foster dad. We talked about road trips and maybe moving in. The idea that she could be related to me? That was a different kind of horror. The kind you can't laugh off. The kind that makes you question everything you thought was good in your life. The next day, I told her I was sick. Needed some time. She sounded concerned, sweet, like always. But I could hear something else behind her voice, that pause people get when they know you're hiding something but don't want to admit it yet. I dug out the old box from under my bed. My case files. Foster records. Letters I never answered. One stood out from my biological mother. I'd only read it once, years ago. Didn't have the stomach back then. But now? She'd written about giving me up. About a man named Raymond she loved but left when she got pregnant. Said she hoped one day I'd understand why she couldn't stay. Said she'd had a daughter later, with a different man, and she hoped that girl would grow up with a better shot. The daughter's name? Tessa. My hands went cold. My ears rang. I checked the date on the letter again. Did the math? If it was real, if it wasn't some mix-up or cosmic joke, that meant we had different fathers, but the same mother. Half-siblings. I wanted to throw up, or punch a wall, or disappear, but I had to be sure. I showed up unannounced to the last address I had for my mother. A rundown duplex with paint peeling off the siding and a wind chime made from old silverware. A woman answered. Gray hair. Thin frame. Same eyes as Tessa. She didn't flinch when I told her who I was. "I wondered when you'd come," she said. I held up the letter. "Is it true?" She didn't deny it. Didn't even look surprised. Just nodded and said, "She doesn't know. I never told her about you." I couldn't breathe. "She's my sister." Half-sister, she corrected gently, like that made it better. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. I spent the night on a park bench with a bottle of cheap whiskey and the ghost of every what-if that ever haunted me. What do you do when love turns into a tragedy? I didn't call her for 3 days. No texts, no updates, no nothing. Just vanished like a man who couldn't face the storm he helped stir. But Tessa? She didn't let that slide. She showed up on my doorstep with a bag of oranges, 2 beers, and a crooked smile. "You look like hell," she said, brushing past me like she still belonged. And part of me wanted to let her. Wanted to sink back into that lie, into the soft places where truth didn't live. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. Lied. We sat in silence, the way only people close enough to hurt each other can. She cracked open a beer. I didn't touch mine. She glanced over. "Are we okay?" I looked at her then. Really looked. Same nose. Same jawline when she was mad. Same damn eyes as the woman who confirmed everything. "No," I said, my voice like gravel. "We're not." Her smile faltered. "What's going on?" I stood up. Paced. Rubbed the back of my neck like I was trying to reset my brain. "You ever wonder about your mom?" I asked. That caught her off guard. "What do you mean? Where she came from? What she did before you were born?" She frowned. "Not really. She never talked about it. Said the past was the past." I swallowed hard. "What if I told you? We have the same past." She laughed short, nervous, unsure. "What does that mean?" I handed her the letter. Watched her read it. Her hands shook. Her lips parted. "No," she whispered. "This isn't real." I talked to her. I said, "Your mom." "My mom." She confirmed it. Tessa stared at me like I'd turned into something monstrous. Like I'd betrayed her, even though I hadn't known either. "So, we're half," I cut in. "Half siblings." She stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. No, this is wrong. This is insane. Why would anyone do this to us?" I didn't have an answer. She looked like she wanted to run, or scream, or curl up and disappear. Instead, she just said, "I need to go." And she did. Left the beers. Left the oranges. Left me standing in a room full of broken glass without a single sound to shatter it. I didn't see her again for 6 weeks. I didn't eat much after she left. Didn't sleep right either. Just moved through my days like a man underwater, slow, heavy, out of breath. The city didn't care. Still honked. Still howled. Still poured rain like it was trying to wash the truth off the pavement. I kept the letter on the kitchen table. Couldn't bring myself to throw it away. It sat there like a loaded gun no one wanted to touch. I thought about calling her. 1,000 times. Even picked up the phone. Typed the message. Deleted it. Again and again. What do you say when love curdles into something forbidden? Week 3. I drove by her building. Lights were off. Or maybe she'd moved. Maybe she was halfway to Montana, trying to forget my name. Week 4. I saw her in a grocery store parking lot. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and chose not to. She looked different. Lighter somehow, but harder too. Her hair was tied up. No makeup. That old blue raincoat slung over her arm like it didn't mean anything anymore. I sat in my truck and watched her load a bag of apples into the trunk of a car I didn't recognize. There was a guy in the driver's seat. Blonde. Clean cut. Smiling like he still believed the world made sense. She leaned over. Kissed him. My stomach twisted. I drove away before she could look up. Week 5. I hit the bottle harder than I should have. Slept in the back of my van one night just to feel like I was going somewhere. That was the night I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But I did. And her voice, soft and clear, slid through the speaker like a knife through warm bread. "Hey," she said. "I think we need to talk." I didn't breathe. Just whispered, "Yeah. Okay." We met the next day. Same diner where I first saw her sketching in that notebook. She was already there when I arrived, sipping coffee, staring out the window like she wasn't sure the world outside was real. I sat down. She didn't look at me for a long time. Finally, she said, "I did a DNA test." My heart stopped. And she slid her phone across the table. I stared at the screen. Read the words 3 times before I understood. Half-sibling match, 99. 2%. No doubts. No maybe. She finally looked at me. So now what? That question, so now what, hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. No easy answers. No clean exits. We sat there in that booth, 2 people with the same blood and a past we didn't ask for, trying to find a path through the wreckage. I stared down at my hands. The same ones that had once traced her collarbone like it was a map to heaven, now trembling like they belonged to a stranger. "I don't know," I said, honest for once. "I've never been here before." She took a long sip of coffee. I talked to my mom, she said, her voice flat. Asked her straight out if she had a son she gave up. And she broke down. Told me everything. Said she was young, scared. That she thought she was doing the right thing. I nodded. Mine said the same. She never thought we'd meet. Said it was impossible. Different towns. Different lives. Except fate's got a real twisted sense of humor. Tessa didn't smile. This can't happen again, she said quietly. I know. She looked out the window for a long while. I thought I loved you, she said. Maybe I still do, in some stupid, shattered way. But this isn't love anymore. It can't be. I loved you too, I said. Still do. That's what makes it hell. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red, but steady. I'm moving. I swallowed. Where? Out west. Oregon, maybe. My friend's got a place near the coast. I need time. Distance. A new name, maybe. I nodded. I'll delete your number. Won't follow. I promise. She stood up. Left a few bills on the table. We didn't know, she said. We weren't monsters. No, I said. Just two people who got caught in a story someone else started. She walked away. Blue raincoat over her arm. Same as that first night I saw her. Except this time, she didn't look back. The bell above the diner door rang behind her like a final note in a song you never wanted to end. And I just sat there, staring at that coffee, wondering how the hell love could taste like grief. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. 2 months after Tessa left, I started dreaming in fragments. Rain on concrete. Her laugh echoing down stairwells. The shape of her hand brushing mine. All of it tangled in a fog I couldn't shake. I went back to work, but not really. The routes felt longer. The city louder. Everything I delivered felt heavier, even if it was just envelopes and birthday cards. I'd walk up to a porch, see the name on the package, and wonder if their life was about to split in two like mine had. One night, I ended up at the old house where her mother lived. I didn't knock. Just sat across the street in my truck, watching the porch light flicker like it couldn't decide whether to die or keep trying. That's when I saw her. Not Tessa, but her mom. She came out with a mug in one hand, wrapped in a threadbare sweater. She didn't look at me, but somehow I knew she knew I was there. I got out anyway. We stood 10 feet apart. Didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, "You look like your father." I didn't respond. She took a sip from her mug. I was 17. He was older. Not by a lot, but enough. He left before you were born. You ever think about telling me? I asked, voice brittle. She sighed. I wanted to. But every year that passed, it got harder. Easier to pretend it was a different life. Easier to lie. Your lies broke us. I know, she said. That was it. Just I know. No excuses. No tears. Just truth sitting there, naked and cold. She nodded toward her front door. You want to come in? No, I said. I just wanted to see your face. Know where it came from. That's all. She didn't argue. I turned and walked back to the truck. As I drove off, I saw her in the rear view, small, still, holding that mug like it was the only warm thing left in her world. Back home, I boxed up everything that reminded me of Tessa. Sketches she left on my fridge. A scarf still hanging on the coat rack. The notebook where she wrote grocery lists like poetry, milk, eggs, maybe something beautiful. I didn't throw it away. Couldn't. Just tucked it in the back of the closet like you do with winter coats in July. Not forgotten. Just waiting for the weather to change. But life's a funny thing. It never stays quiet for long. Because 6 weeks later, I got a letter. No return address. Again. Inside? Just 2 words. She's pregnant. Now, things really get complicated. I stared at that envelope like it might catch fire. Just 2 words. She's pregnant. But it might as well have been a sledgehammer through a stained glass window. I sat there in the kitchen, bare bulb swinging overhead, fridge humming like it was trying to drown out the sound of my own heart breaking. She's pregnant. Not a name. Not a sender. Just that. I didn't know if it was truth or torment, a prank or a cry for help. But I knew this. If there was even a sliver of a chance it was real, I had to find out. I drove back to her mother's house the next day. This time, I knocked. She opened the door slower than before. No surprise on her face. You got it, didn't you? She asked. I just nodded. She let me in this time. House smelled like lemon cleaner and regret. The TV was on low in the background, some rerun no one was watching. She didn't tell me directly, her mom said, but I saw a prescription on the counter. Prenatal vitamins. Do you know where she is? No, she said. Then paused. but I think she wants you to find her. I stood there, fist clenched, trying to breathe through the fog in my head. She didn't plan this, her mother added. She's scared. More than you know. She shouldn't be the one afraid, I said. I should have protected her from all of this. She didn't want protection, she replied. She wanted peace. And for a moment, you gave her that. I left with nothing but a sinking gut and the address of a friend she might have stayed with, a girl named Mia, out in Cannon Beach, Oregon. I packed a bag that night. Didn't sleep. Just drove. 23 hours later, I was standing outside a little coastal house with chipped paint and wind chimes made from bottle caps. The air smelled like salt and cedar. A woman opened the door. Mid-30s. Sharp eyes. She didn't ask who I was. She's out back, she said. I walked around the side and found her sitting on a weather-worn bench overlooking the water, wrapped in a blanket, hair whipping in the wind. She turned when she heard me. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just looked tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure I should. We sat in silence for a while. Just the waves, the gulls, the ache between us. Finally, I asked, is it true? She nodded. How far along? Almost 10 weeks, she said. I found out a month ago. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. Still not. You going to keep it? She looked at me. Would you want me to? I couldn't answer right away. My heart said yes. My head screamed no. I don't know, I said. She nodded. That's where I'm at too. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat there as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting everything in gold. When she finally stood to go inside, she turned and asked, do you want to stay for dinner? I said yes, because I didn't know how to say goodbye. But I sure as hell wasn't ready to say hello to a world where she, and now possibly a child, wasn't part of it. Dinner was simple. Grilled cheese and tomato soup. She still made it the same way, butter crisp on the bread, extra basil in the broth. Comfort food for a time when nothing was comfortable anymore. We ate in silence. Every clink of a spoon felt like a thunderclap in the quiet. Afterward, we sat on the porch under a crooked strand of fairy lights. The wind off the ocean cut through our clothes, but neither of us moved. Cold was easier to deal with than what we had to talk about. I've got an appointment, she said finally. Next Thursday. Just to talk. To figure things out. I nodded. You going alone? I was planning to. I stared out at the black waves, thinking how damn cruel the world could be. Two people find each other out of billions, and it turns out they were never meant to meet. I want to come, I said. She looked at me then, a sharp in the dark. You sure? No, I admitted. But I need to. If this is I stopped. Couldn't say it. She filled in the word for me anyway. Child. I nodded. The next few days moved like walking through water. We didn't sleep in the same room. Didn't touch. Didn't even make eye contact unless we had to. But there was a strange peace in it, a fragile truce between two people who'd already been broken in half. On Wednesday night, she knocked on the door of the guest room. I need to know something, she said. Okay. If the baby is healthy, if I choose to keep it, would you want to be part of its life? I didn't answer right away. My mind was a battlefield. But when I spoke, it came out clear. Yes, I said. Not as a father. Not in the way I once thought. But as something. Someone who's there. Always. She exhaled like she'd been holding that breath for weeks. That's what I want too. We didn't hug. Didn't cry. We just sat there, side by side. Two people who once held each other like lifelines, now learning how to be something else. Next morning, we drove to the clinic. Quiet ride. Rain on the windshield. She kept her hand on her stomach like it was already telling her things she wasn't ready to hear. The nurse asked me to wait outside during the ultrasound. I sat in that plastic chair, hands clenched, heart pounding. 15 minutes later, she came out holding a small black and white printout. He's okay, she whispered. A boy. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not big, not wide, but real. And then she said the words that would change everything. I want to raise him, but not in hiding, not in shame. She looked at me, fire behind her eyes now. So we have to tell the truth. We drove back to her place without speaking much, the ultrasound photo resting between us like a fragile secret. A baby boy. Half me, half her. All tangled in a story neither of us saw coming. She made tea while I sat on the couch, staring at that photo. Not out of fear anymore. Not even guilt. Just awe. That something could still grow out of this wreckage. Tessa handed me a mug, sat down across from me, and said, we need to tell them. Them meant her mom, my foster dad. Friends who still asked about that girl you used to date. People who'd see our faces and not know whether to look away or stare. We don't owe the world our shame, she said. But we owe this kid the truth. I nodded. Then let's start with family. That weekend, we drove to see my foster dad, a quiet man named Leo who smelled like pipe smoke and engine oil. He'd taken me in when I was 12 and never asked why I flinched at loud voices. He just gave me space, tools, and enough trust to build myself back up. He opened the door, took one look at Tessa, and raised an eyebrow. Thought you two split. We did, I said. But something's happened. We sat him down and told him everything. Every knot in the thread. The letter. The mother. The DNA. The baby. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he leaned back in his chair and let out a breath. Well, hell. Tessa's hands were shaking. Leo noticed. Reached over. Covered them with his. You're not bad people, he said gently. You didn't know. You didn't do this to each other. Life did. Tessa's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. We want to raise him. Together. But not as a couple. As something else. Leo smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Family comes in more shapes than most folks want to admit. If you're honest with that boy, if you give him love and not lies, he'll be better off than most. We left lighter than we came. Next stop was her mother. That talk didn't go as smooth. She cried. Accused. Begged us not to tell anyone. Said it would ruin her, that the past should stay buried. Tessa stood firm. He has a right to know where he came from. He's a baby, her mother shouted. No, Tessa said, calm as glass. He's a person. And one day, he'll ask. That night, back at the cottage, we drafted a letter. Not to mail, not to post. Just to keep for the boy. For someday. We told the whole truth. Who we were. How we met. What we didn't know. What we chose to do once we found out. And how none of it, was his fault. We signed it at the bottom. Both of us. Together. Then we tucked it in an envelope and placed it in the top drawer of the nursery dresser. That was the night we stopped being a love story. And became something else entirely. It was raining when he came. Not the soft kind that taps your window like a lullaby. No, this was the kind of rain that scrubs the world clean, thunder rolling over the rooftops like a warning bell. Tessa's water broke just after 2 a.m. She tried to stay calm, she always did. But I saw the fear in her eyes. Not just the pain, not just the unknown, but something deeper. Like she was standing on a ledge and wasn't sure if the ground below would catch her. We got to the hospital in under 20 minutes. Oregon's coast roads were slick and winding, but I drove like I'd trained for it. Every turn a prayer. Every stoplight a heartbeat. They rushed her in, nurses moving with quiet urgency, voices low and steady. I stayed by her side the whole time, gripping her hand while she crushed mine. Hours blurred into a strange kind of fog. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped. Outside, the storm cracked open again and again. And then, just before noon, he arrived. He didn't cry at first. Just blinked. Like he was surprised the world was real. Like he was sizing it up before deciding whether to trust it. Then, finally, a wail strong and full of life. They placed him on her chest, and I saw something in her face I hadn't seen since before the letter. Before the unraveling. It wasn't joy. Wasn't relief. It was something quieter. Something older. Peace. He's beautiful, she whispered, brushing a fingertip across his cheek. He was. Dark hair. Wide eyes. A tiny scar-shaped birthmark above his left eyebrow, like a question mark stamped on his skin before he could ask one himself. We named him Jonah. After the storm-swallowed man who still found his way back. The days after were quiet. Sacred. Visitors came in small numbers. Her friend Mia brought flowers. My foster dad brought a carved wooden rattle he'd made by hand. Her mother didn't come. Not at first. But on the third day, she showed up with a knitted blanket and a note tucked inside that just said, I'm trying. Tessa didn't say a word. Just nodded. That was enough. I slept in the pull-out beside them every night. Watched as Jonah yawned and wriggled and made tiny fists like he was ready to fight the whole world. And maybe he was. Maybe we all are, in our own ways. But here's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes love doesn't look like romance. Sometimes it's showing up anyway. Packing lunches. Holding hands. Sitting in the dark when someone else is too scared to turn on the light. We weren't lovers anymore. We weren't siblings in any traditional way. We were something in between. Something strange and sacred. We were parents. And Jonah? He was the reason we chose to keep living the truth, even when it hurt. Bringing Jonah home felt like stepping into a dream we didn't dare have. The little coastal cottage wasn't much, cracked window frames, uneven floors, But when we crossed that threshold with him bundled in Tessa's arms, it felt like sacred ground. Mia had stocked the fridge. Leo had dropped off a crib, hand-sanded and smooth as river rock. Even her mother, though still skittish and full of silence, had sent over a bag of hand-me-downs from her own childhood. For a while, it felt almost normal. Diaper changes at 2 a.m., warm bottles, late-night crying that rattled the rafters. Tessa would rock him against her chest, humming songs I didn't recognize, while I stood nearby, half useless but wholly in love with that tiny, furious bundle of life. We never talked much about the past in those early weeks. No mention of DNA tests or letters slipped under doors. Just feedings, burping, and whispered jokes about who Jonah would take after, my stubborn jaw, her sharp eyes. But even silence has its weight. One night, 3 weeks in, after Jonah had finally fallen asleep, Tessa sat on the porch, staring at the stars. I joined her. He smiled today, she said softly. I saw. She looked over. Sometimes I forget. Me too. Then I remember. And it hits me all over again. I didn't say anything. Just reached over and held her hand. She didn't pull away. I don't want him to grow up ashamed, she said. Of us. Of where he came from. He won't, I said. Because we're not hiding. We're telling him everything. In time. She nodded. You still have the letter? I reached into my jacket. Pulled out a folded envelope. Right here. She stared at it. Promise me something. Anything. When he's old enough, we read it together. Not just give it to him. Read it. Every word. I looked her in the eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lost. I promise. That night, we sat beside Jonah's crib, watching his chest rise and fall, listening to the wind outside like a lullaby only we could hear. And I realized something. Sometimes, the people who break your heart are the same ones who teach you how to hold it again. Jonah turned 12 the year we gave him the letter. It was a clear October day, all orange leaves and the smell of wood smoke. He'd been asking questions lately. About why his last name didn't match mine. About why his baby pictures had 2 people in them who didn't sleep in the same room anymore. He was smart. Quieter than most boys his age. Thoughtful in that way kids get when they've grown up in a house where silence means something. We waited until the end of the day. After the cake. After his friends left. Just us 3 again, like it had always been. Tessa sat beside him on the couch. I stood by the window, arms crossed like I was bracing for a punch. She handed him the envelope. This, she said, is something we've been waiting to share with you. It's the whole truth. About us. About you. Jonah looked at it, brow furrowed. Okay. He opened it slow. Read it slower. I watched his eyes move across the page. The way his lip trembled when he got to the part about how we met. How we fell in love. How we found out what we never should have had. Then the part about him. How he was wanted. How he was born out of confusion. Yes, but never out of shame. He looked up at us. Not angry. Not crying. Just quiet. Does this mean I'm messed up? He asked. Tessa leaned in, took his hand. No, baby. It means you're ours. And we've loved you honestly from day one. That's more than most kids ever get. I crouched down in front of him. Your story's complicated. So's ours. But the thing about hard stories, they make strong people. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he asked, Can I keep this? We nodded. He stood, walked down the hall, and closed the door to his room behind him. Tessa sat back on the couch, staring at nothing. You think we did the right thing? She asked. I shrugged. I think we did the only thing. Silence again. But not the kind that hurts. The kind that lets the dust settle. Jonah came back out 20 minutes later, still holding the letter. He sat down, between us this time. I want to ask questions, he said. Good, I told him. Ask all of them. And he did. Over the years, we answered every single one. He grew up knowing the whole truth, no fairy tales, no edits. He knew about the pain, the choice, the letter, the promise. He also knew how fiercely he was loved. Jonah's in college now, studying psychology. Says he wants to help kids like him, the ones who come from tangled roots but still bloom anyway. Tessa lives nearby. We talk most days. Still a strange kind of family, but it works. There's no name for what we are. Just a rhythm. And that letter? It's framed now. Hung on the wall in Jonah's dorm. Right above his desk. He says it reminds him where he came from and how far he's gone since.